and thank you for joining us for this edition of Parents and Kids Livestream. With me right now, I have Elizabeth Foster, and Foster is the state coordinator for Safe Kids Mississippi, which is part of Safe Kids Worldwide. Good morning, Liz, and how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really happy to be on with you.
Well, thank you. Now, Liz spends her whole career, she works Children's in Mississippi, which is our children's hospital. But your whole job is to make sure kids don't go to Children's of Mississippi.
Absolutely. Our whole goal is to prevent unintentional injuries and to keep children safe at home, at play, and at play.
Well, that's perfect. What I want to say to right now to our streaming audience is if you have questions, just answer them. Don't answer them. Liz will answer them. Just put them below on Facebook and they'll get relayed to me and then I will ask her. So you can interact with us and please do come up with your questions because she is the expert on all sorts of things. I know Safe Kids works from concussion prevention to, we're going to talk about hot cars today. What other aspects? Car seats?
We cover child passenger safety, ATV, teen driving, home safety, newborn. So a plethora of different topics, anything that is related to unintentional injuries. We have some major topics that we cover because we see more injuries and fatalities in those areas for our state. And so that is focused more around highway safety or what I like to call summer safety. Because during the summer, that's when we see uptick in certain injuries. For instance, ATV injuries or burns or things of that nature when you have children who are home alone. Also drowning, the uptick in drownings. In particular, this month, it is Heatstroke Awareness Month. And so that's the big topic we're focusing on this month.
Okay, and it definitely is hot right now. This is July in Mississippi, and we're all just roasting. Today, we're going to talk specifically about kids in hot cars.
Yes.
Now, obviously, cars get hot, but tell us more about what happens when a child is left unattended in a car. I mean, honestly, I'm just going into the store to get a Coke. What's the big deal?
Well, with heat stroke, which is also known as hypothermia, it's the leading cause of death among children in cars that are non-crash related. And the reason for this is because these children, they can't exit the car on their own. And often they're in a seat or there's a child lock involved. But the problem is their body temperature heats up way and it's harder to control that body temperature. So very fast, that child can overheat, unlike an adult who can better regulate their body temperature. One thing to note is how fast the inside of a car actually heats up. Today, I think this morning it was about 80 degrees outside, and even with it being cloudy, in less than 10 minutes, a car can heat up an additional 10 degrees. So you mentioned even running in the store just to grab a soda or milk or something you need on the way home. Just imagine what happens once you get in. The line may be long. Someone may stop you. Something can come up. So on a 90-degree day, which is pretty much every day in Mississippi, that car has heated up to over 100 degrees within 10 minutes. At 104 degrees for a child, that's when their internal organs can begin to shut down.
Wow, that's sobering. I think you sent me earlier a video of a simulation showing just what happens.
Yes.
Let's run that now and then talk about that because what you're talking about is really sobering. Okay, so we've seen that video. That starts a car off at 80 degrees.
Yes.
And it got up so fast, so hot, so fast. In Mississippi, where the high today is supposed to be 95.
Right. In the video, it shows how it happens so fast. And, every year we bring awareness about kids and cars and heat stroke. But during this time, it's more important than ever because of the COVID pandemic. And myself, so often I need to go into the store to an appointment, and everyone is telling you that you can't bring anyone into your doctor's appointment with you. Or because I have a small child who's also high risk, I don't like taking him in the grocery store. And so it's hard on a parent to say, okay, if I leave my child in the car, I just need to go grab a few things. And so we're also seeing more cases of that where you see someone sick because they didn't want to go inside because it's being exposed.
Gosh, that makes so much sense. I was going to ask you, is COVID making a reduction in this? But no, obviously because they want the little ones out of the stores, it just leads parents, when this happens to a parent, when a child is left in a car, it's typically not bad parents. People say, I would never do that. I love my child. It's not about love and it's not about care. What causes these things to happen?
The main point is to tell everyone that this can happen to anyone. No one intentionally leaves their child unattended in the car. Most of the heat stroke fatalities is not because the parent ran in the store. It's because they forgot the child was in the car. But again, this can happen to any parent. And the reason we see this increase in children being forgotten in the cars is because life has changed so much. There's so many distractions, there's phone, there's stress, and so many things are playing through your mind as you're driving. And transporting your child can be a simple break in your routine. And so a lot of times that's when we have a child that's left in the car. It may be a break in the routine. It may be a different parent that's responsible for drop off on that day, a grandparent. And just to show how this can happen to anyone, I always share my own personal story. When I had my son, for over 16 years, I've been used to getting in the car and coming straight to work, not dropping a child off. But that was my new routine. And twice I recall getting on the interstate, and as I looked in my rear view to merge over, I see two eyes looking at me. I forgot to drop my child off. And so I had to get off the interstate and go back home. And so I ask parents when I hear them say, oh, I'd never forget my child was in the car. I ask them, have they ever made it home and realized they forgot to unplug the iron or forgot to turn the stove off? That's how easily we can make that very simple mistake. It's no different than, have you ever been driving and then for a quick second you forgot where you were even going? So it's just the smallest little thing that can happen that can change your life drastically.
I've gotten to work and then thought about it and hardly remembered the drive from the house to the office.
Yes.
It's like I was on autopilot. It's all in your muscle memory. You do it day after day. And so all of a sudden there's something different, and yet you do what your body has been just focused on doing. That makes so much sense. I will say, I think about myself, how many times I have to figure out, where did I leave my phone? I can forget that. I can forget my keys. When a child is left in a car for, sometimes it's a work day when the parent drives to work and hasn't dropped off the daycare, that it's not that they've forgotten the child for 8 hours. It's that they forgot the child for 2 minutes during that point when they were supposed to make the turn to drop the child off.
Correct.
In their mind, the child is at daycare and is happy and is playing. It's a split second error. It's not really an 8-hour error.
You're absolutely right. And that's when you hear these stories, that's usually when it occurs. It's when the parent exits work or arrives at the daycare and realizes the child isn't there. The biggest tip I give to new parents and to child care providers when I teach trainings is I tell providers to implement a policy where every day by 10 a.m., if a child has not arrived, the parent is called. And in my case, I had a family member that was that provided our child care. And so that dad wouldn't feel like I didn't trust that he dropped off our little one, I just told her, I said, hey, if Kingston isn't dropped off by 10 o'clock, just shoot me a text message, so I can follow up with that, because I knew that just wasn't in his routine. And I know how he rushes in the morning. So that's something I tell the child care provider. And I also tell the parent, whoever is keeping the child, tell them, hey, if my child isn't dropped off by this time, do you mind sending me a message or giving me a call?
That makes good sense. Another thing, I've kind of done the opposite of this. I put my purse in the back seat. And a lot of this reason I do that is so that I won't look at my phone while driving. And now I've got it set so that it just blocks me while I'm driving, because I'm so afraid of that. But if you put your purse or whatever it is you're carrying in the back seat with a child, that'll help. Or put the diaper bag in the front seat.
Absolutely. Yes. There are a lot of newer technologies even coming out. We even have car seats now that will ding if they're not unbuckled before you get out of the car. And that's a reminder that you need to check the back seat. But you're right, something as simple as put your purse in the back seat, put your briefcase in the back seat. Better yet, put your phone in the back seat. And we can kill two birds with one stone. We can not be distracted by our phone while driving, and we know we're not leaving our phone. So let's put that stuff in the back seat.
That's a very good point. Now, listen, you sent me just a ton of great materials. Do you mind going over some of those? I like you had the park look and lock, and then the ACT things. Talk us through those, please.
Okay, so ACT is an acronym, and the A is for avoid heatstroke. And we just talked about some of the ways to avoid it. And that's not leaving the child in the car, making sure they're not left unattended, and also making sure you lock your car when you get out of the car, because so often a child may try to go back and retrieve something out of the car. They may play hide and seek, and we have seen instances like that as well. So remember to avoid it altogether by keeping your car locked and not leaving the child unattended. So the C in ACT is for creating the reminders. We talked about that as well. Place something in the back seat. Hang a little pacifier on your rear view. One of the things safety has created this past year that we give out at events is we have an air freshener that hangs in your window. The front of it says, "Before you lock," to remind you to check your back seat. And then it also has a child passenger safety message on the other side. So just create those little reminders in the car for yourself. Lastly is to take action. Our entire village has to be vigilant for children and protecting children. So especially again with COVID and so many people who can't take their children inside of places or choose not to put something or just grabbing something. If you see that child, you have to act and do something to make sure that child is safe. And we have had some great successes. Someone took action at for instance, Walmart. You might see someone there in the car. So just take action to protect children. If you need to call 911 because you see a child that is in the car, do so.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know it's kind of taboo nowadays to discipline or interact or comment on another child and how that family's raising it. But this supersedes being polite and being correct. This is life and death, literally.
It is. It is. And people have gone about it in different ways. They've, seen children left in cars. Some will sit and wait to make sure everything is fine until the parent returns. But again, that child's body is heating up so fast. So if you see a child in distress, may look lethargic or crying or sweating, you have to take action and call 911. Or at least if the door, is open the door so the child can get air, and just try to remain on the scene until either a parent, a first responder, or a police officer arrives.
Mhm. And if the person who witnesses this is hesitant to get involved, at least go get a store manager.
Yes, absolutely.
Do something. Do something.
Or make
Now,
an announcement over the PA system in the store, but something.
yeah. And the thing is, minutes count. I think the thing is, like right now, these days of COVID, we've all sat in the car while our stronger, healthier spouse has run in and done something. And we're adults and we're thinking, well, my husband was pumping gas the other day. Turn the car off, so I'm sitting there. It wasn't that bad. But for kids, they're so tiny, especially the little ones.
Mm-hmm. Again, it goes back to their body being so small, so they heat up much faster. It's a smaller package, so it can heat up much faster, and they can't control that body heat like we can. And so, in less than 10 minutes, that body temperature is rising.
And then to think they're strapped into a car seat, those things can't be cool. They're not cool.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what other things that you have in your mind about the summer we need to know about? You highlighted a few. You highlighted drowning and all sorts of things that people can get into over the summer. Even I can imagine toxic substances under the kitchen sink.
Yes. Well, I was very interested in the transition into this new normal and parents working at home. I had the opportunity to speak with some parents about how they became so focused in their work, and although they were home with the child, there were still instances where the children became injured or near misses within the home. So we had to address those with parents. You have that distraction of work, and it's like you're still in the office, but you have to make sure you still get the child being and supervising the children around the home. Because the thing about the shelter in place is kids get pretty bored and they find things to get into. And so based on the age of your child, you need to do your child proofing for each age. Like for instance, having gun locks, keeping guns up in play, making sure you have cabinet locks for all the children who get into cabinets. Something as simple as makeup. You have little girls who may go through your makeup bags. So it's just a number of things you have to keep up and away. Also, a lot of people have to transition into having grandparents step in to take care of children. Message with your parents is how they're storing their medicine, and cover medication safety with grandparents, because I know even my own parents, usually their medicine, because they take it every day, is just there on the kitchen table, all lined up. So that's even something else you need to discuss as your parents help you through this time, and everyone else is helping with children while they're at home.
Wow, that's really a sobering information to think about. Working at home, all the things going on, and like right now, you're paying attention to me. I'm paying attention to you. Who knows what's going on in the other room? And I've heard if they're quiet, they're up to something.
Right.
And parents need quiet. So we've just told the kids, now's your prime moment to go get into something, because I'm about to do a work meeting.
Right. I have a Zoom meeting, so I'm going to lock in the room and tell the kids, don't come to the door.
Yeah. These are really are strange and troubling times, and now we're approaching going back to school, and people are going to be doing home education and A and B at school, and everyone's under a lot of stress.
Yes. Well, even for additional COVID, like we already had our usual safety messaging through Safe Kids Worldwide. All of those resources have now been updated to include COVID safety messaging, because things change so much. Like children aren't on the highway as much, people aren't driving as much, but it is more children being left in the car. And so any of that updated information, safety information related to COVID, can be found on the website as well.
Well, give us these web addresses and we'll get them on screen so we can tell folks where to go find more information, because I can tell we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg to talk about.
You can visit our Safe Kids website, which is safekids.org, or you can visit the Children's Hospital website, which is umc.edu/safekids.
Okay. I noticed a bunch of videos.
Yes.
And if I'm correct, Spanish?
Yes, English and Spanish.
Okay, that's great. This may not be what you want to sit on the porch and watch on your phone while your kids play in the yard, but this stuff is really important because these things happen to any parent, no matter education, background, age, location. Just like you said, 1 or 2 seconds of just inattention can happen.
Right. We even have messaging on laundry packets. Most people are surprised and shocked at how many children are poisoned from the laundry pods. So that's even something else that, all of those items in the home that we use every day, keeping them stored up and away from your little ones, because I have to make the joke sometimes to myself, like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till a teacher comes and gets their kid, talking about my own kid, because parents, we're this is like new for us. This is every day, trying to multitask and watch our children. And so it's the smallest little things that we don't even notice in our own home until you've been in a situation like this where you're home more and you're spending more time with family. So this is the perfect opportunity to do an activity with your child where you go through the house and do a checklist about home safety, create a fire escape plan. This is a great time to even teach your children, how to dial emergency numbers. Even myself, I don't have a home phone. So I've been working with my son on how to use my cell phone, how to use it to call 911, and making sure he knows his address and what to say when he makes that call.
Oh, that is a great lesson for right now. We're all trying to learn at home and keep kids' brains growing, knowing your address and phone number and your first and last name, and maybe knowing your mother's name.
Yes.
I remember at Fitness Fest a few years ago, there was a child lost, and of course the volunteers brought him to me, and we get him all comforted, and we said, "So what's your mommy's name?" And he said, "Mommy," and that was mommy's name. Luckily, we had a band on him. We could call the mom's cell phone, but it was just kind of funny because I'm not sure I knew my mother's first name when I was just a little tiny one.
Yes.
And knowing your dad's name. And another thing on that topic, thinking about what we've had at Fitness Fest with lost kids, is having the kid understand who they came with. Because I've got a lost kid and I'm like, what grown up brought you here? And then I find out it was grandma. Well, that helps me figure out how to get the two paired back up. But when they don't know how to identify the person they came with, it's kind of like, okay, we're going to get through this together. And we've gotten all the kids reunited with their proper people. But it's always a little stressful because they're stressed out, we're stressed out. So before we wrap up, let's go over the websites again. Well, you better tell them to me because I'll get them wrong.
It is safekids.org or umc.edu/safekids.
Okay, and then when we're in non-COVID days, aren't there programs and times when you can actually go meet with people and do seminars and presentations on this?
Yes. We teach a number of different classes to parents on child passenger safety. We also have a program called Bringing Baby Home, where we cover all the information you need to know about bringing home a newborn. We also have a teen driving program called Driver's Impact, where we work with preteens and teens on defensive driving, and this is interactive course about 4 hours. We also cover. We have a fire education program that we do in schools as well, and we also have a wellness component where we talk about fitness with children.
So if I were an educator, I would just go to your website and I can contact you, and when these things are possible again, we could schedule something?
Yes, or you can even send an email to safekids@umc.edu.
That makes sense. Now, is there a charge for these services?
No, everything is absolutely free.
Wow. And these are some informed professionals giving top-notch advice.
Yes.
Now, okay, I had a question from a coworker come in, and it's very important. She and her husband are registered for your September car seat event to get certified to become a car seat safety technician. So we're wondering if that's going to happen.
So that particular course, all courses are registered through Safe Kids. It's the governing body for all child passenger safety technicians. But depending on who our instructor is, it would be dependent upon them if they're still going to host the course. This week, we did receive instruction on how to host classes during COVID. But if she sends an email to me, I can link her with who the instructor is that's hosting that class and make sure they follow up with her on if they'll still have it. Just really briefly, some of the measures we're taking to continue to offer courses is, of course, mask. We're creating smaller classes, having only one person per class, and each person being assigned their own vehicle, their own car seats, and everything to work with so that there's no crossing between items.
Oh, that's wonderful. She's real excited about it. She has a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. And so she definitely wants to go find out about all that. Let's see, what else should we go over? I just really want to keep hitting home on people that say, I love my child, I would never forget my child. That's just not an issue here. It's not about not loving your child.
Yes. And again, I am sure every parent who has lost their child to a heat stroke in a car felt and still feels the same way. We love our children. No one would intentionally hurt or harm their child. And it's unfortunate that it's just a simple mistake, we made. And I tell people, yes, I'm a safety professional, but all I can do is take measures for prevention, but anything can even happen to myself. And so it's just I have to be vigilant and make sure that I'm practicing safety measures to keep my child safe.
As we're talking, I'm thinking of the times I've come into the kitchen and found the oven on.
Yes.
I've gotten up in the morning and the front door is unlocked. I mean, I'm just thinking about all these little slips that in themselves are harmless, but if they had been a slip with a child, it would have been devastating.
Yes. And I still have these slips, I'll never forget my son. One day I even walked in the kitchen and thankfully the top was on tight, but he was hugging a Fabuloso bottle that I'd set on the floor. And so it's just those little things that can easily happen.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all that you do for Mississippi's kids. Your passion about what you do is great. I've loved working with you on past events. We're going to get back to some in-person car seat safety checks one of these days, where we're going
Yes.
to invite parents to come and get their car seats checked. You have done a wonderful job coordinating those. And Elizabeth, I just thank you for caring as much about Mississippi kids as you do your own kids.
Oh, the same sentiments to you, Gretchen. We love parenting kids. And if it wasn't for your reach and those who are faithful members of parenting kids, we wouldn't be able to spread the message the way we have. So thank you so much.
Well, we're going to spread this message. We are going to ask anyone viewing this as a live stream, please share this with all your friends.
Share.
Especially if they say they love their kids, then they need to send it to other people who love their kids. We're also going to put this out on some e-news. We're going to get on our website. I'll send you this link as well, Elizabeth, so you can do whatever you want to with it. But y'all, this is an important message. It's literally life or death. And we're talking in 95-degree heat, 5 minutes in a little tiny one. It's really life and death.
Thank
Well,
you.
I'm sorry to end on such a sober note, but Elizabeth, thank you. Thanks Safe Kids Mississippi. Thank you, MMC and Children's. Y'all do wonderful work, and please keep it up.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.